Well, viewers, it's just a matter of hours now before we find out who will enter the Oval Office. America decides, and Times Now will decode for you every aspect of this rather bitterly fought, wild and tightly contested election in the United States. Both the candidates, U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris and the former President Donald Trump, made the final push in their decisive battleground states to impress voters as they wrapped up their respective campaigns. Kamala Harris had a star-studded final event in Philadelphia, where celebrities like Lady Gaga and Oprah Winfrey joined her. Kamala Harris said that her campaign has tapped into the ambitions, aspirations, and the dreams of the American people. She even acknowledged that this could be one of the closest races in history.
Our campaign has tapped into the ambitions and the aspirations and the dreams of the American people. We are optimistic and we are excited about what we can do together. And we know it is time for a new generation of leadership in America. And I am ready to offer that leadership as the next President of the United States of America. However, the race ain't over yet, and we must finish strong, and this could be one of the closest races in history.
Now, Kamala Harris has said that the momentum is on her side. However, in his final plea to the voters at his last rally in Michigan, Donald Trump, the former U.S. president and Republican presidential candidate, vowed to fix America. He said Joe and Kamala broke it, and he will fix it.
This is my last rally. Can you believe it? The rallies, these big, beautiful rallies, there's never been anything like it. And there never will be anything like it. And it just happened. It caught on. And I think it caught on because our country's in trouble. And, I happened to be a messenger that was able to tell you what you knew, because most people understand it. Most people with common sense, we're the party of common sense, they understand it. But this is all you need to know. I mean, Joe and Kamala broke it, and I will fix it. I'll fix it fast.
Now, as per the early trends, Donald Trump seems to be having a slight edge. This is a high-stakes election for Americans and for the world, with both the campaigns rallying every single voter that they can reach. In a race this tight, every vote could be the one that tips the balance, and that's something that we in India can appreciate, having seen close contests in our own elections. For India, a nation that values its partnership with the U.S., the outcome of this race is pivotal, with both Harris and Trump representing very different directions for U.S.-India relations. Now, Indian Americans numbering approximately 5.2 million or 52 lakh in the United States, which is the second largest immigrant community after Mexicans, also the highest earning. They're going to have a very, very significant say in this election as well, which is why, remember, both the candidates, Donald Trump as well as Kamala Harris, have also been wooing the Indian Americans. In fact, many of them have also spoken about the same. It's the highest earning ethnic group in the United States, with significant presence in IT, engineering and medicine sector. Indian Americans are in fact undoubtedly a significant voting bloc, especially in key swing states. Their votes can influence election outcomes, and Indian Americans have traditionally voted for the Democrats, but this election is going to be very different. So will the Indian Americans change their voting patterns this time and switch to the Republicans? Let's get you an overview of the Indian American population in several pivotal swing states. So 5.2 million people, that's a total number of Indian Americans, 1.5% share of the Indian Americans in the United States, and there are 2.6 million, which is the total number of Indian American voters. So the voters who are going to decide, 2.6 million of them in total, 1% share of the Indian American voters are in the United States. This is according to the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. So these numbers are significant. That's also one of the reasons why the Indian Americans are being wooed by both blocs. So let's tell you the numbers in the swing states. Remember, in a contest that is so closely fought like this one, the swing states are going to hold the key to the White House. So in Arizona, let's tell you the numbers of the Indian Americans, 66,000. So that's a big number. In Florida, it's even bigger with 1.93 lakh voters who are going to decide the fate of who could be the president of the United States. In Georgia as well, another swing state, the numbers are very, very significant. It's 1.5 lakh. And in Michigan as well, over 1 lakh voters of the Indian community are going to decide the fate. And North Carolina as well, another very significant state which is going to be a swing state this time around, is going to decide on who could be the president. Pennsylvania as well, another state where both Kamala Harris as well as Donald Trump have made their own respective pitches, is also going to be a significant voter chunk from the Indian community. And in Texas, it perhaps has the biggest numbers with 4.75 lakh Indian Americans who are going to decide the future of the United States. In Wisconsin, which has also seen a very close battle in 2016 as well, 37,000 people are from the Indian American community who could hold the decision on who will be the president of the United States.
The race is very, very tight in the battleground states. There is no question about it. The Hindu and Indian vote in the battleground states, which is almost 1 million votes in the battleground, 7 battleground states, when you combine them. So that's what is happening. Hindu and Indian Americans are going to decide who the next president of the United States will be.
Well, Times Now's Malvika Jain, who is covering the U.S. poll, spoke to Pennsylvania House Representative Arvind Venkat. Listen in.
Hello and welcome to Times Now. I'm Malvika Jain and I have with me Representative Arvind Venkat. He's a member of the House of Representatives in the state of Pennsylvania, a key swing state. It is often said that whoever wins the state of Pennsylvania wins the U.S. presidential elections. And that is why both Kamala Harris and Donald Trump have been aggressively campaigning in this state until the D-Day. Representative, welcome to Times Now. My first question to you is that we are in the midst of the presidential elections in the U.S. Tomorrow is the formal voting day. Early voting has already been taking place. Pennsylvania is a key state. It's a swing state. You have Trump and Harris both aggressively campaigning in the state of Pennsylvania. What makes it so unique? And what has been the role of the Indian-American community? You are a part of the Indian-American community. What do you see as its contributions?
Thanks for having me on your news show. Pennsylvania is critical because under the United States electoral process, which is really based on the number of votes cast within each state, Pennsylvania is the largest swing state within the United States. And so essentially who wins Pennsylvania will likely win the presidency. I'm very fortunate to be a state representative in Pennsylvania. I'm the first Indian American to serve in our state house in the over 200-year history of Pennsylvania. And the Indian American community and the South Asian community in general within Pennsylvania is extraordinarily critical. When we look at the recent electoral history in Pennsylvania, Donald Trump won Pennsylvania by less than 1% of the vote in 2016. Joe Biden won Pennsylvania by a little over 80,000 votes, or about 1% of the vote in 2020. There are close to 200,000 Indian Americans in Pennsylvania, and there's probably another 75 to 100,000 more other South Asians in Pennsylvania. So really, the South Asian community, the Asian American community overall, is the margin of difference within the electorate within this key state.
And who are they supporting? Who are the Indian Americans supporting? Are they supporting Harris or Trump?
So I don't want to speak in generalities, but if you look at polling, the Indian American community is one of the most democratically inclined communities within Pennsylvania and across the United States. It's probably close to 70% of the Indian American population that by polls is voting for Kamala Harris. The Asian American community is, similar, but not quite as overwhelmingly Democratic.
But Trump has been trying to actively reach out to Indian Americans. You are a Democrat, but is there any factors that are making you insecure and making you believe that some voters, the Indian American voters who have typically voted for the Democratic Party, may lean towards Donald Trump?
Well, each voter makes their own individual decision. My personal feeling is that Kamala Harris is a much stronger message, and it's not simply because she has an Indian American background. Her message of trying to build up the middle class, to restore reproductive rights, to address gun violence, to make healthcare more affordable, to have an immigration system for this country that both emphasizes border security and channels of legal immigration. I think all of these resonate predominantly with the Indian American community in a very positive way. So for me, as an Indian American, married to another Indian American with two Indian American daughters who are going to be voting in their first presidential election this year, for me, this choice is very clear. And again, I think for the vast majority of Indian Americans in Pennsylvania, that will be the case in supporting Kamala Harris tomorrow in the presidential election.
So clearly, you are very optimistic about Kamala Harris's chances in the state of Pennsylvania. But Trump today also was conversing in Pennsylvania, and Kamala Harris was also going door to door in the state. Is there anything about the Trump campaign that makes you nervous or insecure?
Well, Donald Trump, has won elections where people did not expect him to. And he is really the only candidate in the last nearly 35 or 40 years as a Republican to carry Pennsylvania. And so certainly it is a real race here in Pennsylvania. Every poll indicates that. I see that in my district, which is a relatively balanced district among Democrats and Republicans. And so this is really going to be a very close race tomorrow. And what I have said to my constituents, what I've said to the Indian American community, certainly here in Western Pennsylvania where I am, it's very important that you come out to vote if you are eligible and to make sure that your voice is heard. I don't think that President Trump's message is particularly a good one. I think that when he talks about tariffs, when he talks about that everyone wanted to see the rescinding of abortion rights, that simply is not true. And unfortunately, he's had a long history of telling lies as part of his political campaigns. And I'm cautiously optimistic that we'll see a good result tomorrow with Kamala Harris winning this election.
Well, but do you think that Kamala Harris will also be good for the India-US relationships? Of course, we've spoken to a lot of experts, a lot of political leaders, and everybody's saying that the relationship between India and US is not dependent on the outcome of this US elections alone, because there are various strategic reasons why the US president, whoever that it might be, would need to partner with India and continue the work with India. But Kamala Harris, even though she has Indian origin roots, for instance, on the issue of Kashmir, has not been particularly pro-India.
Yeah, we've seen over the last, 15, 20 years that the U.S.-Indian relationship has blossomed quite a bit. And I think it really, at its root, is because the Indian diaspora here in the United States has grown and has matured in a way that it puts pressure on elected officials, whether Republican or Democrat, to maintain a good relationship. This year in Pennsylvania, myself, an Indian American state senator, and a Republican state senator were able to pass into legislation recognition of Diwali as a holiday within the state of Pennsylvania. That would not have happened except for the very effective advocacy of the Indian American and South Asian community. So I would agree that there's going to be a strong relationship between the United States and India, regardless of whether it's Harris or Trump. But I think that India, being the world's largest democracy and the US being the world's oldest democracy, there are a lot of shared interests. And when we look at small d democratic principles, that's far more embodied by Kamala Harris than by Donald Trump. I think the idea that we have elected governments that are accountable to the people and peaceful transitions of power, that's something that is much more embodied by Kamala Harris than it is by Donald Trump.
Well, it remains to be seen who is going to win in this election. Donald Trump is equally making attempts to reach out to India and partner with the country. So I think we'll just have to wait it out to see who wins tomorrow and who particularly wins in the state of Pennsylvania.
So a special puja has taken place at Kamala Harris's ancestral village for her victory as well. The visuals are on your screens where puja had been conducted for the victory of Kamala Harris. This is in India. And ahead of the 2024 U.S. presidential election, a baby pygmy hippopotamus Mudang has also become the internet's newest prophetic sensation. In a latest video, Mudang is called out of water with a tempting bait of food, and the baby hippo is presented with 2 watermelons, each inscribed with the names of the 2 major candidates who are vying for the presidency, Republican Donald Trump and Democrat Kamala Harris. Without any hesitation, Mudang in fact makes a choice, walking straight towards a watermelon basket adorned with Trump's name, effectively endorsing the former president for her pick for the upcoming election.